Hello everyone, here is the Clever Idiot and this is the 12th tutorial in C programming. This video is also on type conversion. So this is the things that we have discussed in the previous videos. Now before going to know why this code is printing 5 instead of 5.5, we should know one more thing. And I am giving you an example for that. That is int I, then float j, and I equals to 3.5 and j equals to 8. Now I am printing printf %. Now if I want to print I should keep in mind that we should use here the format specifier according to the variable data type and not the value data type. Here the value data type is float, whereas the variable data type is an integer. So to get the correct answer we should use the data type of variable and not the value. So here we should use %d, I. Printf, same for j, the data type of value is an integer but the data type of variable, that is j, is float. So we should use %f and then just run it. Okay, give a /n here. /n stands for new line. Okay, now run it. Now what is happening here? The compiler comes to first line and declares a variable I, which is an integer type. Then the compiler comes to second line, declares a variable j, which is a float type. And then the compiler comes to third line and seeing that there is a float number and the left hand side is an integer variable. So the compiler already knows that the integer variable can only store an integer number. So only 3 of 3.5 gets stored into I. And so when we print the value of I, it only shows 3. Okay, and not the 3.5. Same as for j, that is 8 is an integer value, but the data type of j is float. So 8 should be converted into a float number, and so the answer when we get from this last line is a float number, that is 8 and then 6 zeros, which is a default. Okay, so this is what will happen if you insert a float number to an integer variable and a integer number to a float variable. Now what if I will give a format specifier according to the value of variable, that is the value of I is a float number. So I give here %f and the value of j is an integer number, so I am giving here %d. Okay, so since the format specifier is not according to the according to the variable data type, so it will give an arbitrary value or 0. Just run it and see. It is giving 00000, means not the correct answer. Okay, so to get the correct answer we should use the format specifier according to the data type of variable and not the data type of value. Okay, so just use here %d and %f here. Okay, and one more thing, that is if you use a float number and want to insert into an integer variable, then only the integer value of that float number will get stored into an integer variable. Same as for float number, if you want to insert an integer value into a float variable, then that integer value will get converted into a float number and gets stored into a float variable. Now focus on this code, what is happening here. Okay, just delete this comment indication. Now here I have a x which is an integer type 11 and y which is an integer type of 2, has a value 2. Also we have a variable race which is an integer type. Now when we divide integer by integer, now from the previous videos we know when we do operation between two integer numbers, the answer should be an integer number. Okay, so it will be 11 by 2 is not 5.5, it should be 5. If you convert it into float, and since the data type of race is float, so we should use here f, because the format specifier should be according to the data type of variable. Okay, now as we use float here, then also it will print 5 only. See, 5.0000. Why? 5.0, it's a float number because the race has a data type of float, and 5 is because the right hand side of race is a operation between two integer number, and so the result will be an integer, and the result is an integer, that is 5. And when we insert that 5 into race, which is a float type, the 5 gets converted into a float number, that is 5.000, and it gets printed on the screen. So what if I want to get a correct answer, that is 5.5? We have to convert one of these value to float. Okay, because when we do operation between float and integer, the result is a float number. So just do this thing, that is float y and 2. Now what will happen? We are dividing x by 2, that is integer by a float. The result will be a float, and that float will get inserted into a float variable. So the result will be 5.5 for sure. See, 5.5. Hopefully you have understood all this. If you have confusion in it, just comment below. I will explain you in more better way. Till that, if you like this video, press the like button. If you have any doubt, comment below. Share with your friends, subscribe the channel, and be a clever idiot. Thank you.